Welcome, everybody. This is the Jocker Room podcast. Minnesota Timberwolves talk. Vikings are going on, but they're 4-0, so, we don't have anything
That's
to
the
talk
best
about
team
with
in the
them. They're
league.
best
I
team in the
mean,
league.
you could talk about how you could compare quarterbacks like Sam Darnold and Pat Mahomes, but like at the end of the day, like he's pretty good, but he's no Sam Darnold. So
Yeah, I mean, you have probably who would be like unanimous MVP, best quarterback in his division and conference. Then you have Patrick Mahomes. I mean, come on. We don't really have to talk about the Vikings. We're here to talk about the Wolves today. While you're here, before we get started, please make sure you like, subscribe, and don't miss another episode because we want to talk sports. Wolves season's right around the corner.
Tomorrow, we're filming Thursday. Tomorrow's the first game of the preseason.
Yes.
Wild.
We spatter in football talk during college football and Vikings and stuff, but primarily our episodes are mainly basketball related, which is why we're here to talk about the Wolves, because the Wolves broke our hearts.
But not in the way you expect.
Yeah, not in the usual way where they hit the under of their win totals for like 24 years straight or whatever it was. No, it was taking one of our favorite players ever, not just on the current team, ever, and moved him to New York. All right. Yeah.
Welcome to New York.
Yeah. Karl-Anthony Towns has been traded to the New York Knicks for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, 6,000 first-round picks, $70 million straight into my pocket. The rest of it was just in my head because the actual trade itself feels so dumb and I hate it. But, I don't want to jump to conclusions. We have to welcome it. Honestly, I already tweeted about it. I hope New York Knicks win a championship. Doesn't have to be this year. I want Karl-Anthony Towns to get a ring. When KG went to Boston, I wanted him to get a ring. He got one. When Randy Moss went to the Patriots, I wanted him to get a ring. Nope. There's certain.
But he set a record for most receiving touchdowns in a season by a wide receiver. So
he did. Yeah. There's just certain players you want to get a ring before they're done. It would be nice if Charles Barkley had one. It'd be nice if Steve Nash had one. But Cat was one of those guys. You think he's the second best Timberwolf ever?
I do.
I
do right now.
Right now,
currently, I think right now, currently he is.
I would put him
stats,
fourth.
Points. Fourth, okay.
Yeah, I think he's the fourth best Timberwolf ever. But even saying that is, I think, honorable. It's just in such a bad franchise, we have had a couple greats. There's even a couple guys that have been like super memorable, but not as good.
Sure.
I think Ant and KG are better than Cat overall.
Sure. Yeah, I think Ant's trajectory is easily like second. But I think as of right now, just Cat having been here 9 years, all the records he's broken, all-time leading scorer in a game, second in points, second in rebounds, second in, all that, all those things, all those accolades, the All-Star games, the three-point contest wins, the all NBAs. Like, I just think Cat right now, yeah, I just think right now Cat's second. I think Ant's trajectory will easily pass that.
Sure.
And then Kevin Love is probably that next guy.
So that's who I was gonna say. That's who I have third.
Yeah. Sure.
It's Ant for me. 1 is Ant, 2 is KG, 3 is Randy Foye, 4 is
Fred Hoiberg, Mark Madsen, dude.
Mark Madsen, Troy Hudson, Wally Zerbiak, Sam Cassell, Jake Layman, Alexei Shved, Nikola Pekovic, Al Jefferson.
Yeah, man. I mean, those. If as just a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, and somebody, if those aren't your top 4, those first 4 people we named, not Randy Foye, but Kevin Love. I mean, that's just the top 4. You can put them in any order.
You're probably older than 40 and have some nostalgic love for an older player.
Sure.
Like, oh no, Sam Mitchell was better. Yeah. Like, no, it's those 4. It's Kevin Garnett, Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, Kevin Love.
Right.
You can put them in whatever order you want. I won't argue. You want to put Cat 1, Kevin Love 1. I really don't care.
Sure.
But it's if those 4.
That's the Mount Rushmore. Let's just say that. That's the Mount Rushmore.
If that's not your Mount Rushmore of Timberwolves players, I'm gonna need reasons. Like
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
yeah,
And
Wiggins had
you could say flip, but I mean that if you're talking players,
play.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I would say
right,
players only.
right,
Flip would be like Crazy Horse, where he has his own statue separate, but he's still in the same area
right,
as Mount
right, right, right.
Rushmore. Um, yeah,
Absolutely.
so I think those four. That's that. Like we have a solidified Mount Rushmore
Right.
of
And it's
Timberwolves,
not close.
and yeah,
So
I think it's a massive drop off. Like who would you even put fifth? Is the it's that's the that's the like
yeah, right,
Spreewell? I just
right,
it's
right.
I
I don't know. For me, it's a heart pick.
right
For me,
exactly.
it's a hard
After
pick,
those
and
top
it's
four, it's hard.
Rubio, So,
Right. Yeah, exactly. I
so
think those first four, it's like if you're thinking with your head, it's 100% those four. Everything after that, it's like, yeah, it's a heart pick because my
right,
heart pick would probably be something like a Spreewell, a Hoiberg. It's one of
right,
those playoff,
sure,
one of the guys from that playoff team, Olawakandi.
right.
Um, anyway, off topic subject for those of you, who's your Mount Rushmore of the Timberwolves? First of all, I think that's a great question. Please let us know. But I digress. The actual topic, Karl-Anthony Towns was traded. What does that mean for him? I think he's in a great situation. However, he does tend to have a reputation of being soft. I don't think he's that soft. I think he is no
Oh,
softer than any other
no,
new age player.
100%.
However, I
He's
think New
zesty.
York,
He's zesty, so they call him soft.
right?
That's
Yeah, but I think
that.
him and his girlfriend will be very happy in that city.
Yeah, he grew up there. He grew up
He
there.
grew
So I
up
mean,
there. They both have like big
I'm sure
attachments in
Jordan Woods has just
yeah.
huge stuff in New York and LA.
I
Like
just
all
think
that
New
stuff. So
York's a little too attached to those like they want to be the bad boy Pistons for the
oh
like
yeah,
they want Patrick Ewing still in the Knicks. Like they are stuck in that where it's like Jalen Brunson's not that. Like you
he's
guys
very aggressive. They're very aggressive out there.
right.
Like
Thibodeau is the
they
only thing that is hard about the Knicks
right.
in my
Yeah,
mind.
right. And or Randall was a little bit of a
He's a bruiser.
dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Brunson's not that. Josh Hart maybe a little.
Yeah. There we go. Sorry, I forgot about Josh Hart. Josh Hart is definitely a baller.
Right.
I just
Yeah, he's a
think
bit
the
of a
Knicks,
dog. Mikal Bridges, no.
not at all,
So
not
I'm
at
saying
all.
so OG plays like it, but he's not really
But
got
he's
that mentality, right?
no. I think the Knicks
So
fans are gonna be over the top about Cap, but that's because his expectations are higher. His
yeah,
expectations are now that he is going to be the number 2 on a Knicks team that almost made it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
yeah,
So when he does do something soft, however, not any softer than anything Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, whatever does, whatever,
right,
he's going to get shit on for no reason. Just
right,
going to throw that out there now. I'm going to keep supporting him. I like Jalen Brunson. I really like Josh Hart.
right.
I think the Knicks are going to be awesome. And I think basketball is better when the Knicks are good. Similar to like basketball is better when North Carolina and Duke are both good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Knicks have to be good
Yeah.
because no one like the East runs through Boston, but like you compare the East to the West, and it's really not like competitively
And
close
fans
at
don't
all.
like Boston. They don't like other teams don't like Boston fans and they don't like the Boston team.
Right.
They don't like
Yeah, I
Jason.
mean,
I mean
they
Jalen
just
Brown's
walk
awesome in my
they
opinion.
just walk their way to 60 wins every year, and then they get to the playoffs and no one can compete with them. So
Yeah,
it's
Milwaukee
like
seems like they
annoying.
can't stay healthy.
Right.
And then they rely too much on Giannis. Just not it's not for good.
Right.
Philadelphia has their own issues. I don't really give a shit,
Philadelphia.
so I don't want to talk about them.
Yeah.
And then like
Miami also has issues. Like
there are 2
it's
teams
like
in the East that I like. And
Magic.
yeah, yep, the Knicks and the Magic. That's it.
Sure. Yep.
Outside of the Knicks and the Magic, I don't care about the Eastern Conference. Like if it's not the Knicks and the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm rooting for whoever they are facing if they're in it.
Yeah.
They have
Indiana a
young
little bit.
stars.
Indiana a little bit. I kind of pull for them a little.
Yeah,
They got some players I like.
they
Miles
have the
Turner,
underdog factor where you don't expect a lot
Halliburton.
out of them, but they do well, so it's cool to see.
Right.
Yeah, and I like Halliburton. The more crap he gets, especially for some reason people like to hate him. So the more
Yeah.
crap he gets, the more I wanted to
Yeah,
root
I mean,
for him.
he had some really inconsistent playoff games, but he also couldn't walk after some of the games. So
Right.
like,
There's a lot of people that have had what was it in
right.
first year in Miami or second year in Miami, Jimmy Butler had less than 10 points in every game.
Yeah.
So, not everybody can be good every game out. Not everyone is LeBron James, I'm sorry.
Right.
LeBron's had bad games, but even then, like, come on.
Right. Right.
So there's those couple games. Paolo Banchero, somebody you can root for. I think Cat Brunson. That the Knicks team is easy to root for as long as people aren't obnoxious. I get it's hard, especially not just New York, but like all basketball fans tend to be so over the top. I almost have to watch basketball pretending no fans exist because they're so much more annoying than every other sport. I don't know why. Maybe it's just NBA Twitter, but oh my god, I can't even talk basketball with people because of how annoying they
You're
tend to
right.
be. It's so
Yeah,
weird.
I
Like
remember
football,
when we
it's
used to go to fantasy football with your family, and you and I would just sit. We'd separate ourselves from everybody, and we would sit next to each other so that we could like whisper picks and talk about what's going on. And we would just every time someone said some dumbass comment, we'd like look at each other and be like, "Are these guys serious? Like,
that's how it
what
feels
are
every time people talk basketball. And like I don't know. I think if we're just being straight up honest, the Knicks got way better with this deal. I don't know how Thibodeau is going to do with Karl-Anthony Towns. I think Cat's going to be sitting more games than he's ever sat before.
Yeah, I think the thing with Thibodeau is he runs everyone into the ground, right?
Right.
And Cat has dealt with injuries, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's played. He missed 20 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
Randall missed about 30 games last year with that. He had a shoulder injury, and so like from a health standpoint, you're kind of swapping equals.
Sure.
But how much of Julius Randle's attrition,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Atrophy.
Both work
Uh,
actually.
yeah. We're
Atrophy's more
due.
severe. But
Sure. We're due to Tibbs's, kind of, DiVincenzo, like playoff wise, played all 48 minutes. Josh Hart
yeah.
played a whole freaking series. OG was crawling out there on painkillers, but he's still trying to book it. So I don't know if Tibbs' way of the preservation of his players is going to work with Cat. And then they lost Hartenstein. They
Yeah.
lost Randall, so they lost two bigs.
I think Hartenstein's a big loss for them because
Right,
of
he's
just what
huge.
he brought. And
You're right,
he was like what they needed and he played his role really
100%.
well.
And like you look at it, they could, if they would have somehow kept Hartenstein and still swung the deal for Cat, I think they would be in a much better place.
Sure.
Because they could play big. So
I have one thing I want to say about the Knicks, and then I want to move to Wolves. So if you have more to say on
sure.
the Knicks, feel free. I think Karl-Anthony Towns will have a top 2 to top 3 season. I'm willing to say he's going to have the best averages he's ever had, almost purely because he's going to be playing 42 minutes a night. And because of that, I think he's going to average, 28 points, 13 rebounds. I think he's going to have, I think right now his career average is 22 points a game. I think he surpasses that this season.
Sure. My one problem,
minutes he plays.
My one issue with the Knicks, and this is where I think they're going to struggle, is they got really good wing defenders.
Yep.
They got Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG. Cat's no slouch either, but he's going to be playing a different defensive role than he was with us. I think they got great wing defenders. However, their backup center is Mitchell Robinson.
Sure.
And which is also a great defender. He's a very versatile defender. But outside of Cat, they don't have much size.
Sure.
And so, they're going to be running with probably Mikal Bridges at the 4, or OG at the 4, which is like you want to run that against a Rudy Julius Randle Nas combo. Like that's not going to work.
Yeah, but it works in the East, I think.
Yeah, it works in the East, right? Because I mean, like most teams have like the one center. But yeah, it works in the East. But I just think like the matchups, it could be like beneficial for them, but also a negative for them,
Yeah.
just from how their team is kind of constructed. So that's my one point on them. I think Cat's going to do very well, but I also
Mm-hmm.
think he's got to learn a different role now. And so whether that's offensively and defensively. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. Well, rooting best for you. Just for Knicks
100%.
fans who
Yeah.
aren't familiar with Cat as a human being, um, there's a very awesome television personality, reporter, sideline reporter for the Timberwolves. She also does the Lynx. She's was also the voice of the Twins for a couple games this year. Marnie Gellner, for those of you who aren't familiar with her, she's really great. Last year she had a battle with breast cancer, and she received a bunch of flowers from Karl-Anthony Towns, and with a handwritten, personalized letter. She went to the Timberwolves PR department the day after she received those to say thank you, and the PR department had no idea what she was talking about. So Karl-Anthony Towns did that
Got one more
himself.
story of him too.
So he's an awesome human being. You people want to call him soft. That's his soft right
Yeah,
there.
his heart. Yeah.
He's an
Um,
amazing person.
One more story though. The Timberwolves number one like beat writer, sports writer, his name is John Krasinski
Mm-hmm.
with the Athletic here in town. And news broke about the trade on Friday night. And Karl-Anthony Towns texted John Krasinski and asked when his daughter plays her next game. When his daughter plays, John Krasinski's daughter plays her next game, because he always promised to get to one of her games. And Saturday, John Krasinski says it's Saturday. He's like, listen, you don't have to show up. Like, you've got a lot going on. You got to either get packed or get where you're going. And Kat showed up to his daughter's game on Saturday. So just the person he is, stays true to his word, despite all this going on. He's still Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So just a great guy.
Yep. You guys are getting one of the best people, players, and I hope the Knicks fans don't tear him apart. Even if he doesn't do as what they expect, I think he will. But yeah, I love Cat, so we wish you
Sure.
nothing but the best, Cat. Let's talk Wolves. Wolves moving forward. A lot of people expect that they are going to continue making moves, that they might not even end up with Julius Randle on their roster. Apparently, Kevin Durant is the target for what a lot of people are
Yeah,
thinking.
I've seen that. I've also seen if this ends up going to next year, Lowry. So
Yeah.
I've seen kind of those
Lowry
things.
Markkinen, you mean?
Yeah, Lowry.
Okay,
Yep.
that's fine. Okay, I thought you meant Kyle Lowry, and I was like, what the
No,
hell?
Lowry Markkinen. And then
Okay.
right before he signed his extension, they were like prying on him a little bit. They're trying to see what it would take, but he did just sign his extension, so that would be at least 6 months, and I think that comes past the deadline, so it would have to be like a summer deal for him. But yeah, that's also a possibility, especially if Julius Randle opts in.
Well, the big thing, I think the big thing why people think it's KD is because the Suns are in like a hell situation.
Yes, they are.
They obviously want to get rid of Bradley Beal, but nobody wants Bradley Beal.
Exactly.
Bradley Beal is the new John Wall / Russell Westbrook, where the contract is so egregiously above
ballooned because he signed a supermax with another team,
with a team that had only him as an option, so his stats
Right.
were way different than what he
Inflated.
actually was.
Correct.
Yeah. So they want. I don't think they're going to be able to move Beal for what they think they can get.
Right.
I think at best they'll be able to move Beal to a contender at the deadline for just picks and maybe a salary dump to make the salaries match.
Right.
Like a team like I don't even know if he'd want to go somewhere, or if I don't even think like a young team like the Magic would want him, because I feel like he messes up.
I don't think so. Yeah, dude. I mean, they're much like I feel like they're much like how the Timberwolves approach their problems, whereas they see an issue with kind of what they what they were having problems with. So us for like we made it deep into the playoffs, we didn't have enough depth, and so we essentially increased our depth and increased our bench scoring at the price of a starter caliber player.
Mm-hmm.
So we downgraded a little bit as a starter, but we made better bench moves. And I feel like the Magic were struggling with shooting and wing defenders, and so they go out and they get a proven winner in KCP, which I think is going to be just insane for them. I think that's just going to be a hell of a pickup for them just to
And
have
Suggs
that.
may not have the offensive capabilities, but his defense has been nuts.
Right. Suggs defense, KCP defense, and you have scoring with Franz Wagner and Paolo. So
Paolo can do it all himself.
right.
He's so good.
So yeah, and Franz is a good freaking Robin to
He's
his
very
Batman.
good.
So
yeah. I
so
like
yeah,
that
they
team
did
so
they
much.
did the right. Yeah, they're doing the right things. Kind of much like how I kind of view the Timberwolves are doing. But yeah, I love the Magic as well. I think I like how they do their business now.
Speaking
So
of depth, that you know how they always do like anonymous polls of GMs of different sports. Like the
sure.
Athletic just did a bunch of anonymous polls of NFL players.
NFL, yeah, I saw that. That was
Um,
interesting.
there
Yep.
was an anonymous poll last year among NBA GMs of who has the best bench/roster after their
Sure.
starters, and the Timberwolves were number one.
Yeah.
So because 99% of our depth is still there, we just lost our starter.
Yeah. Yeah. We swapped Kyle Anderson for some mixture of Joe Ingles, TSJ, Lenny, Minot. All those people have to kind of match Kyle's production.
Mm-hmm.
So, which from an offensive standpoint wasn't much.
Which Joe Ingles will surpass it offensively. Defensively, it'll be rough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Defensively,
interview with
yeah.
Mike Conley. Mike Conley already said so. He used to say Rudy was his best friend on the team. Joe Ingles has been there for barely any time, and he says
Yeah.
Joe is his best friend on the team.
Yeah.
They're really
funny.
they're it's awesome that they're that
Reunited.
close. Like we have chemistry, even though he's new to the team. The chemistry's still there, so I
Right.
think that helps a ton. Julius Randle's had some issues in the past, like being considered a diva, but when it comes to I feel like he's a lot like Kevin Durant in the sense of once the ball is on the court, it's all basketball from
Oh,
that
yeah.
point.
Yep. And he's played for Finchy before. So
As long as he stays healthy, I don't think this move hurts the Wolves in terms of like overall. I
yeah.
think no big. This is going to sound blasphemous, especially to a lot of fans out there because of the love for the Lakers and the Sixers. But I don't think any big provides every single thing that Cat provides. So no
Yeah, I
matter
mean,
what you replace Cat with, you don't get Cat's efficiency.
100%, 100%. Like Nas, you can get your Nas at his peak is very close to Cat's offensive peak.
Sure,
it's very, very close. Especially if Nas is on fire. Like it's there's probably not a drop off,
but he's not as consistent.
But he's not as good on defense.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe you get a little bit more speed and with Nas on defense, but like the physicality is not the same. And I haven't watched enough Julius Randle to see his defense, but I'm sure it's probably average. So yeah, I mean, you could look at any one statistic and say that Cat can do it better.
Mm-hmm.
But we have pieces on our team that can do each one of Cat's things better.
For
like
sure.
If you want 3-point shooting, we got DiVincenzo, who you know what I mean. Like you know what I mean. There's comparable things up and down the roster to Cat. So it's like it's the coach's job to make all those pieces work, to make it seem like Cat is there. So
what I think is the most interesting thing about this trade so far, because I think the Wolves are retooling without rebuilding, which is what good teams do.
Which is exactly what they did, right? Like they fixed the next 2 years, or they retooled the next 2 years so they can build after that.
They were working around salaries. They're working around. They're changing a lot of stuff up in terms of cap flexibility as well as what you're going to see on the court without diminishing what is like, could they still make the Western Conference Finals with this team? Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So what I think is the most interesting thing is when you're listening to national media, when you're listening to player podcasts, listening to the like change of top, like, do players think this is a good deal for the Knicks or the Wolves or both or neither? Do GMs think that this is a win or loss? Do national media members think one team like severely won? It's
Sure.
funny because this is the tendency with a lot of New York stuff. Media thinks Karl-Anthony Towns is the next best thing now, that the Knicks are going to
Sure.
do great. However, all of the player podcasts, players that
Sure.
come on as guests on national media to interview, all of those that I have listened to say that the Wolves,
Yeah. Even
are,
Vegas says the Wolves won the trade
says that the Wolves
because
won the trade, whether
right.
it's with Julius Randle or if they continue moving pieces.
Sure.
I found that fascinating just because I like Cat so much, especially as a
Right.
player.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean,
they
it
all
took me a
think
while. Like
Julius Randle and stuff is better.
yeah, I mean, I think me reading that thing right off the bat, like my heart dropped. I got
Yeah,
a rock in my stomach,
I
right?
thought it was a fever
Um,
dream.
right. And yeah, you get lightheaded and hot.
Well,
Like,
I read it at like
uh,
2 a.m. I was like, I dreamt it. It wasn't real.
yeah. And but like when you like and this took me a while. I had to like really like sit down and look at everything and like listen to everything and like think about everything because like we matched the salaries. We shed 8 million in salary,
Mm-hmm.
but that put us under the second apron. So we're not paying this massive tax. We have some more flexibility to trade. We also got a pick out of it that won't probably not convey until at least 2027 if we get lucky and the Pistons can figure out how to play basketball and get more than one NBA player on their roster. But like, and the pick is what it is. Like if it conveys, then it's like we have another tool to Tim Conley can use.
Yeah, most
But
people think that pick is not going to do anything because of how protected it
yeah,
is.
yeah, right. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like 2027 would be probably our only chance at it because it's top 9 protected.
Yeah,
But if it does convey in 2027, then it's like okay, we have a pick. Like you know what I mean? We have a top 10 pick or top 14 pick.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm just texting the group chat with me, you, and Sammy P. I think the starters got weaker,
Yeah.
and I don't necessarily think like in certain aspects. Like I think points per game, you're going to get that same kind of number. You're going to get that 22 that Cat had last year. Randall had 24, but they both missed like 20, 30 games. I think the offensively, you're going to get that kind of same number. But I also saw like a really fascinating stat that could be good in the long run, and it was on drives,
Mm-hmm.
Cat versus Julius Randle on like just top to key drives or wing drives or whatever. Cat's pass out tendency was 19%. Julius Randle's was 38% on drives. The turnovers were half as much for Julius Randle, and the offensive fouls were half as much as Julius
That
Randle.
sounds like a lot of corner threes for Joe Ingles.
Yeah, and actually in the playoffs, Julius Randle shot a higher corner 3-point percentage than Cat. Now I don't think that's going to be every day in the
Cat
regular
had an
season.
off
Right.
postseason.
I
He
mean,
had
he was
one.
busting his ass the entire series. You know
We
what I mean?
don't beat
So
Denver without him, but
right,
the rest of the Phoenix series, the Dallas series, Cat was very off.
right. Yeah, I mean, well, Cat also did very well on KD. Like Cat's defense, the first 2 series, like he's probably just
Yep. I don't know who guards
shred.
Jokic now that with Cat gone.
Right, right. But also they got a little weaker because they lost KCP, which had a lot of big moments in those games.
Sure.
But I think if Julius Randle can figure out his spacing, I think that's going to be the biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
Is figuring out his spacing. He's a really good passer, and he's also a really good corner 3-point shooter. So if he can figure out his spacing with Ant, I think our offense can be very good. And then I think DiVincenzo is just people are almost talking about DiVincenzo more than Randall.
They
I
are.
feel.
Yep. I feel like it's because Randall is a walking like 2010 in a lot of
Yeah,
people's mind.
right,
So a lot of people go, well, we know what Randall is. Let's talk about DiVincenzo.
right, right. And like Ant, I'm pretty sure Ant broke the record for threes in the season with like 200,
Yeah.
like 203, 203, and
For a
DiVincenzo
Wolf.
had 80 more, 80 more.
Yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
think,
That's
which is
240.
3-point shooting is something we were in desperate need of,
Yeah,
and
it's
we got
bench
Joe Ingles
scoring,
and
really. Like, yeah,
DiVincenzo.
right, right. Dillingham's a scorer. TSJ's a scorer.
Luka Garza.
Luka Garza's a scorer.
I
You know,
My big thing is Terrence Shannon Jr. is one of those guys. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes his way into rotation. Finch
yeah,
doesn't like playing young guys, but
yeah,
TSJ looked so good.
right. And you can even say that they kind of TSJ got a little ankle tweak or a wrist tweak or something
Mm-hmm.
in whatever, and his production went down. But like you even have moments from like all of our young guys. Like Dillingham had moments. Lenny definitely had moments. Minot had moments. Like all those guys,
Mm-hmm.
like they had moments where they're too good for summer league. Like they shouldn't be in summer league.
Yeah. If you
And
told me
so
our backups were Dillingham, TSJ, Lenny, Minot, Garza, I'd be like, you know what? I'm fine with that team.
yeah, right. Let's run them out there. Let's give the starters a break today. Like,
Like
yeah.
if you're going
And
up
then
against
now
the
you're
Pistons,
saying
start that.
you're saying like those yeah, those five, right? But you're not even considering probably the three best players there, which is going to be DiVincenzo, and Nas.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
So you're saying we
Crazy.
already have a 13 deep minimum roster
Yeah.
as is. So even if they make another move, they have room to work with. And like you mentioned with the salary cap, the Knicks were above the second apron and maintained that status. They are still above the second
Yep.
apron. The
Yeah.
Wolves were over it and are now under it.
Yeah, because they were so they brought in 58.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought in 50 or something
But
like that.
because
So
the Wolves
we
are
got
now
under.
under it, they can now make a move within the NBA rules.
Right.
Their next trade, if they make one, they are allowed to take on salary that puts them over the cap.
Right.
So because when you're over the second apron, so now like Knicks, if they wanted to make a trade, they have to make a trade in which they give up more cap space than they take in.
Right.
The Wolves are now in a space where they can take in more than they give out, which is why people think that they're trying to get somebody like a KD where they can not give up any of our key pieces and still take in a guy like him. I'm fine
Right.
with the Wolves the way they are.
I am
Obviously,
too.
taking in a guy like Kevin Durant, you're stupid to say no. It's like when the Twins were one of the few teams that didn't call about Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
It's like, even if you know you're going to get shut down, you call.
Right.
Even if you have a chance at Kevin Durant, if they tell you they want too much and you're like, we can't do it, you at least got to put your foot in the water because Kevin Durant is one of the best players ever.
I also want to talk about one thing. We have we signed a roster spot to PJ Dozier, who is not a not fully guaranteed roster spot. So we have PJ Dozier on the roster, but we also with this Knicks deal brought in Keita Bates-Diaw.
Yeah,
and I think Keita Bates-Diaw is better. He's played for obviously the Knicks when he got some time with the Knicks. He's played for Popovich, and he is lanky as hell. So if you're telling me that guy later on that can be a very versatile long defender, I think KBD might make it. So
he's another body that you can throw at the bigs of guys like Denver,
right. And he's more of like a 4 too. He's like a long lanky 4.
Because
but
we figured out that even though the Wolves are built big, it's not about going one-on-one. It's having a rotation of guys to help out because some of these guys, like a Derek Lively, a Nikola Jokic, you need a rotation of bigs. Otherwise, one-on-one, they kind of eat up anybody they're one-on-one against.
Yeah.
And with Jaren Jackson Jr. coming back healthy, you're probably going to have same situation there. If Anthony Davis is healthy, we just have a lot of elite bigs that need rotation. I think a guy like KBD can make the 15-man roster to be that throw. He's like a
Especially, yeah,
JaVale
right.
McGee, where he might not get any minutes in the regular season. Playoffs come around, and all of a sudden he's getting 8 to 10 minutes a game.
Right. Yeah. And the fact that PJ Dozier was that 15th spot and it's a non-guaranteed deal, I don't think they would hesitate if KBD fits the scheme more. He's built like Jaden McDaniels, but maybe not like the Walmart brand of Jaden McDaniels.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I just think I think that piece is a little underrated because he's got a lot of good experience and he's just been a good rotation guy. So yeah, it's one of those things where like I just think it's like a win-win. And it may not be like a win-win in regards to just players right now, but like what it means in the grand scheme, the big picture for the Wolves.
Sure.
And the small picture for the Knicks. I mean, I just think they're built with with like a core team, like of like 4 players on 4-year deals or 3-year deals or whatever, 5 players on 3-year deals, and they're ready to compete right now. Whereas we're ready to compete right now, as well as being able to tool our future after the next 2 years when Conley's gone, when Randall's maybe gone, when Gobert's gone. You know what I mean? Like it just depends on what they want to do. But as much as the Cat trade hurts, I also can't fault Tim. Like I can't be mad and like say like I disagree with it because like Tim Conley hasn't given me a reason to not trust what he's doing. So
I would agree. So we talked about this earlier via text, but we've gone pretty long. So I think we got one last thing here. Vegas has our odds at 42.5 for wins.
Right.
Hammering the over, hammering the under.
I'm hammering the over. I think I think if we peak where if we can play like I think we can play, I think we can easily hit our total from last year. But I think there will be a small fall because we don't have a whole offseason to prepare, really. I mean, it's kind of we got 5 preseason games that start tomorrow, and Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, KBD just got here. So I think the gelling might be a little off before we get into that kind of form. And so I think we could drop 5-10 games. You said 45 was the number that you were kind of that'd be
so the over under is 42.5. I think 45. I think they're gonna end the season 45-37. And that, so I think if the win over under was 44.5, I wouldn't bet it. I am saying they hit the over at 42.5.
Yeah, I think
I don't think 58 is realistic.
56,
or 56 or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that 49 to 51 range is my optimism, because that would have put us kind of right in that 4-5 seed.
Sure.
Because everyone else, it was 57, 57, 56
because
last year, and those were the.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say those are the 3 numbers last year, and it was us, OKC, and Denver in a dogfight right to the end. So I think there's going to be a dogfight, but I think like OKC is kind of built to just win the West. But I think it could be anyone's game after OKC, really.
Yeah, then the playoffs hit and Shea doesn't get his few throws, but
right.
I think that because of a little bit of a, not necessarily a hangover, but they kind of got beat up last year. There's usually a little bit of attrition as once you do really well, so a lot of times you go down.
Sure.
But because they play so many games in the NBA, 82 games is a lot of games. I think it's not fair to do like a small window and say like, oh, it's either going to get 42 or 45 wins, somewhere in there.
Sure. Yeah.
There's 82 games. They can go on huge streaks of wins and losses.
Oh yeah.
Similar to baseball, like guessing a team has 100 losses versus guessing they have 80 losses doesn't feel like that big of a difference to me.
Right.
If you were to tell me that the Wolves hit 50 wins, it wouldn't surprise me. Like if you said the Wolves could get to 55, I think that's totally doable. But I also think this team has the capability of being like a 39 to 41 win team.
Sure.
So but that's just because there's so many games, there's so many variables. I just think realistically probably land in the middle around that 45.
Yeah. I mean, I think
so 40 to 50.
Right. I th- I think we would be detrimentally to not hit that 42 and a half. Like if we don't hit that 42 and a half, it probably means Anthony Edwards is down for a considerable amount of time.
which we
Because
were really healthy last year.
I think, yeah, outside of the Cat 20 games, where we went like 13-7 because Nas was averaging like 28 points a game.
Yeah.
Like, but if we lose Ant for an extended period of time, I still think, hi buddy, I still think that 42 and a half is doable without Ant.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it could be under, but I think if we're under that, it would be because of a Ant injury. That's what I think. So,
all right. Well, let us know what you think the Wolves will get. 42 and a half. Are you hammering the over or the under? If the number went up or down, where do you think is that cap? Where's that ceiling in the floor? Who do you think won the trade? Let us know. And as we said earlier, make sure you like, subscribe, because this is, just terrific Minnesota sports content. And we love you.
sir.
So we'll see you all next time for the Jocker Room. Hopefully the Wolves season goes well and smoothly, and we'll talk to you about it. We'll talk some Vikings. Maybe we'll get like a bye week discussion in. And yeah, we'll see you all. Bring the itch for you next time.
GG.
GG.